It's been nearly 2 years since DJI changed the drone game with the Mavic Pro. The Mavic 2 Pro is finally here and it's all about the camera, which this time around comes with a Hasselblad logo on it. There's also the Mavic 2 Zoom, which comes with a 2x optical zoom lens, a first for this category of craft. Both new drones are outstanding, but they come at a price, and some surprising missing features means the new Mavics might not be for everyone. I spent a week flying both, and I'm ready to answer two big questions. Should you buy a Mavic 2? And if so, which version should you get? Both versions of the Mavic 2 improve on the original specs in just about every area, from image quality to obstacle avoidance. But the new Mavics may be too expensive to match the explosive popularity of the Mavic Pro, which was just $999 when it launched. You'll notice that the Mavic 2 looks a lot like the original Mavic Pro, which means it's still small and light enough to carry around in a backpack or messenger bag all day. But the new Mavic is a lot quieter than the old one, which means you'll attract less unwanted attention when flying in public. One of the main upgrades here is obstacle avoidance. The original Mavic Pro could only detect obstacles in front of or below the drone. The Mavic 2 has sensors on the front, back, top, bottom, left, and right. I try not to rely on the obstacle avoidance too much when I'm flying, but watching the Mavic 2 stop itself dead in its tracks right as it was about to hit something over and over again in my tests gave me the confidence to fly the new Mavic closer to obstacles than I would have dared with the original Mavic Pro. Another key upgrade is DJI's new video transmission system. OcuSync 2.0 gives the Mavic 2 an unprecedented 5-mile range and a 1080p feed to your mobile device. This means you can fly farther and see what you're shooting more clearly than ever before. I was surprised at how big an improvement this really is, especially when flying in urban areas like this, where the older Mavics and Phantoms can sometimes struggle to maintain a reliable connection due to radio interference. The bad news is, the Mavic 2 does not have Wi-Fi, so you can't control it with just a phone or tablet like you can with every other Mavic. If you need a drone that you can launch and control with just your phone, then the Mavic 2 is not for you. The Mavic 2 has a lot of new tricks, but it's also worth noting some important features that are missing this time around. At the time of this review, the latest version of the DJI Go 4 app is 4.3.0. The Mavic 2 currently does not support course lock, home lock, terrain follow, or waypoints, though DJI says that waypoints is coming soon. All these flight modes are available on the 2-year-old Mavic Pro, so it's strange to find them missing on the new Mavic 2. DJI may add them in a future update, but they're not available right now. Fortunately, Active Track mode is still here and it's seen some much needed improvements. Active Track works best when tracking large subjects that move at a steady pace, but it struggles to lock on to smaller subjects or anything that changes direction suddenly. In my tests, it was unable to lock on to a bird that was even just floating in the lake, and at one point, it lost track of a jogger. While some older flight modes are missing, the Mavic 2 does have a brand new mode called Hyperlapse, which generates a time-lapse video from a sequence of still images as the drone automatically moves itself through the air. It's great to be able to create a hyperlapse video right within the app. But the downside of hyperlapse mode is that it uses a ton of battery. You'll probably only be able to get 1 or 2 hyperlapse videos per flight, so be sure to stock up on extra Mavic 2 batteries if you plan to use this feature often. So the big question is, which version of the Mavic 2 is right for you? The main selling point of the Mavic 2 Pro is its 1-inch CMOS sensor camera, which was co-engineered by Hasselblad, a name that means a lot to photographers. I'm happy to report that the image quality of the Mavic 2 Pro is superb, and in case you're wondering, it's absolutely on par with the much larger Phantom Pro. For starters, the Mavic 2 Pro has a variable f2.8 to f11 aperture. This is a huge upgrade from the other Mavics which had a fixed aperture lens. A variable aperture allows you to manipulate depth of field and gives you much better control over exposure. Up until now, the only DJI cameras with a variable aperture were attached to much larger drones like the Phantom 4 or Inspire series. So having aperture control in a small foldable drone like the Mavic 2 is an absolute game changer. The 1-inch sensor on the Mavic 2 Pro is a big deal too, both literally and figuratively. A larger sensor allows you to capture more dynamic range and gives you better performance in low light situations. The large sensor also creates shallower depth of field, which, along with the variable aperture, gives you more control over what's in focus and what's not. The Mavic 2 Pro also shoots 20 megapixel still photos versus the Mavic 2 Zoom's 12 megapixels. More megapixels don't necessarily make your photos any better, but it does give you more flexibility when you're cropping your images, and it allows you to make bigger prints if you ever print your drone photos. So that's what's new with the Mavic 2 Pro. Now, let's talk about the zoom. When I initially heard about the two different versions of the new Mavic, I assumed I would go with the more expensive Pro version because image quality, aperture control, and low light performance are really important to me. But I have to say, after flying both versions for a week, the zoom is awfully tempting. The Mavic 2 Zoom is the first ever foldable consumer drone with a 2x optical zoom lens. My initial reaction to this was, why would you need a zoom lens on a drone? Why not just fly closer to your subject? But as I started to fly the zoom, I realized that a zoom lens has the power to change the way you fly and what you choose to shoot. Being able to zoom in and inspect every nook and cranny of a scene before shooting it gives you a much better idea of what you're actually going to end up with. But beyond that, it's just plain fun to be able to zoom in and check things out while you're in the air. And sometimes you'll even discover shots that you might have missed if you hadn't looked more closely. The Mavic 2 Zoom has an additional quick shot mode called Dolly Zoom, which creates an in-camera visual effect which will look familiar if you've ever seen Alfred Hitchcock's 1958 classic, Vertigo. It's easy to execute while flying, and I'll admit it's a cool trick, but DJI seems to be hyping this as a major selling point for the Mavic 2 Zoom. I have a feeling most Zoom owners will try Dolly Zoom a few times and then forget about it. Either that, or the internet will soon be flooded with Dolly Zoom videos and we'll all be sick of them before too long. Okay, now that we know what the new Mavics are offering, it's time to decide whether or not you should buy a Mavic 2, and if so, which version should you get? Right off the bat, if you need a drone with Wi-Fi connectivity, then you'll want to steer clear of the Mavic 2. But for everyone else, the only real downsides of these new Mavics are the high price tags. So which version of the Mavic 2 should you get? If image quality is your primary concern, then you'll probably end up going with the more expensive Mavic 2 Pro. But if you can live without the larger sensor, variable aperture, and increased low light performance, then you can't go wrong with the zoom because it's so much fun to fly. And you might discover shots that you would have missed without the zoom lens. The Mavic 2 Pro costs $1449 at launch, and the Mavic 2 Zoom costs $1249. Both versions are rated for 31 minutes of flight time and have a top speed of 44 miles per hour in sport mode. Spare Mavic 2 batteries will cost you $119 each. Both drones weigh in at just under 2 pounds and are just slightly larger than the original Mavic Pro. For more information, check out our full in-depth review on Engadget.com.